You know, for so many of us, the word meditation brings up this idea of a constant, exhausting battle to quiet the mind. But what if that whole goal is just wrong? Today, we're going to look at a completely different way of doing things. It's called the approach.
Does this sound familiar? I mean, this is basically square one for almost everyone who tries to meditate. We get this idea in our heads that a good meditation session means a perfectly blank, empty mind, that we have to somehow wage war on our own thoughts to find any kind of peace. And honestly, it's probably the single most frustrating misconception out there.
And that belief leads to this game of mental whack-a-mole. You know the one. You sit down, you're on high alert, and the second a thought pops its head up, bam, you try to smash it back down. Another one appears over here, bam. It is absolutely exhausting, it's stressful, and it feels like the exact opposite of the calm you were hoping to find.
So let's dive right into this. Let's talk about the whack-a-mole problem and get to the bottom of why trying harder, why gritting your teeth and really focusing just doesn't work.
It's this vicious cycle, isn't it? It starts with that belief, I need a quiet, empty mind. That makes you sit there on guard, ready to pounce on any thought. And the inevitable result? You just feel frustrated, tired, and like a total failure. But here's the really clever trap. Someone says, oh, just try less. Don't try so hard. And what do? You put a ton of effort into trying not to try. You can't win. It's a setup.
Okay, so if trying harder is the problem, what on earth is the solution? Well, it takes a pretty radical shift in how we see the whole thing. And this next idea captures it perfectly. Okay, I want you to imagine this. Your mind isn't a space you need to empty out. Instead, picture it like a busy road. And all your thoughts? They're just the cars. Red cars, blue cars, fast sports cars, slow clunky trucks, they're all just passing through. The goal isn't to clear the road. The goal is just to change where you're standing.
And this really shows the difference. The old way, the mental whack-a-mole, that's like running out into the middle of a 5-lane highway, waving your arms and trying to stop the cars. It's just chaos. It's stressful. But the new way? You just take a seat on the grass on the side of the road, and you just watch. You're not the traffic cop anymore. You're just an observer.
So how do you actually do this? It's really simple, and it's all about patience. First, you just take your seat. Then, you watch the thoughts, the cars, go by. Now here's the most important part, step 3. You are going to get distracted. You're going to find yourself chasing a shiny red car or trying to argue with a noisy truck. That is not a failure. The magic moment is when you realize, oh, hey, I'm standing in the road again. And then you just gently, without any judgment, escort yourself back to your seat on the grass. That's it. That is the entire practice. So, watching the traffic gives us a whole new technique, but this actually points to something much, much deeper. It's about really understanding what the mind is, which brings us to our next big idea, finding the blue sky.
Think about that for a second. The sky is always blue. Even on the darkest, grayest, most miserable, stormy day, what's true about the sky that's way up there above all those clouds? It's still there, and it's still blue.
And our minds are just like that. Our thoughts, our feelings, our moods, they're just the weather. They're like clouds. Sometimes they're dark and stormy. Sometimes they're light and fluffy. But they aren't the sky. The blue sky, that's your mind's natural state. It's that underlying awareness that's always there, calm, clear, and totally okay, even when the clouds are temporarily blocking the view.
And this is a total game changer, because it means we don't have to create calm. We don't have to build it or force it to happen. It's already there. The practice of meditation, then, isn't about fighting the clouds. It's just about letting them drift by so we can remember and reconnect with that beautiful blue sky that's been there the whole time.
Okay, that all sounds really lovely in theory, right? But what about those days when your mind feels less like a busy road and more like a full-on stampede? For those moments, we need one more way of looking at it: taming the wild horse.
Think about it. A really busy, restless mind is a lot like a wild horse. It's not used to being still, and you are not going to tame it with brute force. It's just too strong. So what do? You give it space. You put it in a huge open field with a really long, loose rope. You're not yanking on it, you're not trying to wrestle it to the ground, you're just holding the end of the rope with a very gentle attention. And you patiently let it run itself out until eventually it finds its own natural place to rest.
So we've got watching from the roadside, finding the blue sky, taming the wild horse. All of these ideas, they all share one incredibly powerful thing in common. It's kind of the secret sauce that makes it all work.
And that secret sauce is gentle,
curiosity. It's like when you see a deer in the woods. You don't shout at it or try to make it do something. You just get really still and watch with this soft, open, fascinated interest. You're just curious. And bringing that same attitude to your own mind without judging it or trying to fix anything, that transforms the whole experience from a fight into a discovery.
So what happens when we don't have that gentle curiosity? What happens when we just charge through life on autopilot? Well, let me tell you a little cautionary tale. We'll call it the story of the very hot soup.
This is just a classic autopilot situation. The goal was simple. Cook dinner fast to get more free time. But the mind wasn't on the cooking. It was already in the future. And because of that rushing, that lack of attention, a simple mistake happens. Grabbing chili powder instead of curry powder. Just 1 second of curiosity. This powder looks a little redder than usual, would have stopped the whole thing. But instead, the mistake leads to panic, a crazy rush to try and fix it, and in the end, way more time and stress than if it had just been done with a little awareness in the first place.
And you know, this approach doesn't just feel better, it literally changes the wiring of your brain. Research from the University of Wisconsin has shown that this kind of mindfulness practice can actually boost activity in the part of your brain linked with optimism and quiet down the part linked with anxiety. You're actively rewiring your brain for more well-being. And the real-world results are just staggering. Get this. In a study on people with generalized anxiety disorder, 90% of them had significant drops in anxiety after just 8 weeks of this kind of practice. 90%. And when they followed up 3 years later, those benefits were still there. This isn't just a nice little idea. It's an incredibly powerful tool for our mental health.
So when you really get down to it, the question isn't, can you stop your thoughts? The real question, the much more interesting question, is this. What might you discover about your own mind, about the traffic, and about that huge, endless blue sky if you just gave up the fight and simply decided to watch?